I'm staring at my boss, sprawled across his mahogany desk, drenched in a neon blue liquid that shouldn't exist. It's not blood, and it's not paint. It's a thick, iridescent slime that seems to pulse under the office fluorescent lights. A bead of cold sweat tracks down my spine as I lean in, the silence of the room pressing against my eardrums. I reach out, my finger trembling, and swipe a bit of the blue sludge. I bring it to my tongue. It doesn't taste like chemicals or copper. It's the sharp, artificial sting of cinnamon. The taste is a violent trigger, a key turning in a rusted lock in my mind, and suddenly, the office walls begin to blur. I don't scream. I can't. My throat has gone bone dry, and my vision begins to tunnel until all I can see is the blue void on the desk. My breath comes in shallow, jagged hitches. I'm not in a corporate office anymore. I'm sliding backward through 20 years of repressed static. I blink, and the office is a wasteland. Every single colleague is dead, posed in grotesque theatrical positions. One is draped over a filing cabinet. Another is curled in a fetal position by the water cooler, all of them coated in that same shimmering blue. Then I see it, a blue-stained note resting on the desk. The note contains a single date from 20 years ago, the exact day I woke up in my childhood home to a world that had ended. My stomach drops, a heavy stone sinking into a pit of dread. I can feel the present slipping away, pulling me back into the nightmare I thought I'd escaped. I'm 10 years old again. I wake up and the first thing I notice is the silence. It's not a peaceful quiet. It's an oppressive, heavy vacuum that swallows the sound of my own breathing. I sit up in bed, the air feeling too thick, and I walk toward the bedroom door with a heavy heart. I find my father in the hallway. He's twisted, limbs bent at angles that make my stomach churn, drenched from head to toe in that neon blue pigment. I let out a guttural gasp, the sound echoing through the empty house. I reach out, touching the liquid, feeling its strange synthetic warmth. I touch it to my tongue. Cinnamon. A childish laugh escapes me, a fragile, high sound. I think it's a game. I think Dad is just playing a trick on me, and the thrill of the hunt replaces the fear. I sprint toward the front door, eager to find the rest of the joke. The entire street is a blue gallery of corpses. The mailman is slumped over his bag. The neighbor is face down in the petunias. Even the dogs are frozen in blue stillness. Vertigo spins my world. Then, I spot him, a figure standing at the end of the block, watching me with clinical intensity. The man is wearing a crisp white lab coat and a mirrored mask that reflects my own terrified small face back at me. He doesn't speak. He doesn't move. He simply raises a gloved hand and points toward the town square, beckoning me to follow him into the heart of the massacre. I follow him, weaving through the bodies. As I pass them, I notice something wrong. The skin feels waxy, like high-grade plastic. They aren't cold like corpses. They feel like mannequins. I start to wonder if I'm the only real thing left in this cinnamon-scented graveyard as I reach the square. Suddenly, the square erupts. The townspeople wake up. In a synchronized burst of movement, their faces splitting into wide, manic grins, they start laughing. A wall of sound that crashes over me. They surround me in a tight circle, their blue-stained clothes shimmering in the sun. They tell me it was a community bonding exercise. They tell me it was a test to see how I'd handle extreme stress, a way to build resilience. They hand me a small, gold-plated trophy. I feel like a specimen under a microscope, my childhood innocence stripped away in a single afternoon. They tell me to forget it ever happened. Within hours, the blue pigment is scrubbed from the streets, and the laughter is replaced by a forced, eerie normalcy. I spent years wondering if I'd hallucinated the whole thing, until that moment in the office brought the cinnamon taste back. Now, I'm back in the present, staring at my boss. My breathing is shallow, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I reach out and press 2 fingers to his neck, searching for the rhythmic thrum of life, praying that this is just another sick joke. There is no pulse. I press harder, and the skin feels cold, waxy, and artificial, exactly like the mannequins from my childhood. A hollow feeling opens up in my chest. If this is a prank, the scale is impossible. If it isn't, I'm standing in the middle of a slaughterhouse. I look up, and my eyes lock onto the ceiling smoke detector. There, embedded in the plastic, is a tiny glinting camera lens. My jaw clenches, and a surge of white-hot anger replaces the fear. I scream at the ceiling, demanding to know who is behind the curtain this time. A crackle of static fills the room, and a voice echoes through the intercom. Welcome to Phase 2, Elias. The voice is cold, devoid of emotion, sending a shiver sliding down my spine. I don't wait for more. I turn and bolt for the exit, my shoes clicking on the marble. The elevator is locked. I sprint to the stairwell, but the door opens to a wall of expanding neon blue foam, sealing me in. The metallic taste of adrenaline floods my mouth. I'm trapped. I look around wildly and spot a loose ventilation grate near the floor. I scramble into the vents, the metal scraping against my shoulders. As I crawl, I hear it, the distant synchronized giggling of 100 people. It's the same sound from the town square 20 years ago. I follow the noise until I drop, hard, into a cold server room. I find a terminal with a file open titled Subject Elias. I lean in, my eyes scanning the text. If you're still listening, you're probably wondering how a life can be scripted like this. Subscribe and hit the bell now, because the truth I'm reading here is a lot worse than the lie. The file explains that the childhood prank wasn't about bonding. It was a conditioning experiment to see if a human mind could be trained to ignore mass death through repeated exposure and gaslighting. I wasn't a child to them. I was a prototype for a psychological weapon. I scroll down to the funding section, and my heart stops. The project was financed by the very corporation I've worked for the last decade. I wasn't hired for my accounting skills. I was brought back into the fold. I've been a lab rat my entire adult life. The realization hits me like a physical blow. My boss wasn't my mentor, he was my handler. Every performance review, every promotion, every friendly chat was just data collection. I walk back into the office, staring at his blue-coated body with a new poisonous clarity. I rip open the boss's suit jacket, searching for a way out, a key, anything. I find a small metallic remote trigger taped to his chest. My hands are trembling, but my mind is focused. I press the button, hoping to trigger some kind of alarm or release. The dead boss snaps awake. His eyes fly open, and he flashes a predatory, wide-toothed smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Before I can recoil, his hand shoots out with blinding speed and grips my wrist, his fingers digging into my skin like steel talons. He leans in, his breath smelling of cinnamon and decay. "You're the only one who didn't get the memo, Elias," he whispers. He lets go and begins to laugh, a dry hacking sound that fills the room. He looks at me with a pity that feels more violent than a punch. He tells me I wasn't a victim in that town. He tells me I was the snitch. He claims that as a 10-year-old, I sold out every other kid in the simulation, pointing out who was faking their death just to earn a reward from the researchers. He presses a button on the remote, and a recording plays. I hear my own childhood voice, high and eager, listing names and telling the adults who was cheating. A crushing weight settles on my chest. The audience might judge me, but I can't even remember the betrayal. The boss stands up, dusting the blue pigment off his sleeves. Phase 2 isn't about conditioning, Elias. It's about atonement. As he speaks, the overhead lights flicker and turn a deep, menacing neon blue, casting long, distorted shadows across the office floor. The other dead colleagues begin to rise. They aren't laughing anymore. Their faces are masks of pure, concentrated hate. They don't look like coworkers. They look like a pack of wolves. They begin to circle me, closing the gap with slow, deliberate steps. They tell me they know everything. The handlers told them what I did as a child, fueling their rage for this moment. I'm no longer the subject. I'm the target. I back into a corner, the cold wall pressing against my spine as the circle tightens. One colleague steps forward, holding a syringe filled with that glowing blue liquid. My pupils dilate, the world blurring at the edges. As he lunges, I swing a heavy desk lamp, the metal connecting with his temple in a satisfying, sickening crack. I don't look back. I smash through a side window and leap to a lower balcony, my fingers scraping against the concrete ledge. I hang there for a second, gasping for air, my nails bleeding as I fight the urge to just let go and fall. I look down, and the street is a sea of white lab coats and mirrored masks. There's no escape. I'm a rat in a maze that spans the entire city. I spot a maintenance hatch slightly ajar and slide inside, descending into the dark bowels of the building. I find it, The control room, a wall of monitors showing every angle of my struggle. The architects of my misery are sitting there, sipping coffee and taking notes. I don't feel fear anymore. I feel a cold, hard resolve that freezes the blood in my veins. I sneak behind them, spotting a technical manual on the console. The blue liquid is a high-grade paralytic that mimics death by slowing the heart to 1 beat per hour. I look at the master switch, the system that distributes the pigment through the ventilation. I have a choice. I can run, or I can give them a taste of their own medicine. My finger hovers over the trigger. I think about the cinnamon, the laughter, and the 20 years of lies. I press the button and hold it down. The vents hiss, and a cloud of neon blue mist floods the room. The controllers collapse in a heap, their faces frozen in expressions of smug surprise as they lose consciousness. I walk out of the building and into the sunlight, the silence finally feeling peaceful. I'm home. I pour a glass of water to wash away the taste of cinnamon, but as the liquid hits the glass, it turns a shimmering, neon blue. My heart stops. Was I ever really out? Tell me in the comments if I'm still in the simulation, and subscribe for part 2.